Greetings, children, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen around the world. I'm going to try to make a point, and what you're about to hear will probably be convoluted and somewhat indecipherable at first. Hopefully, I'll tie it all together at the end. I'm going to talk about two things initially in order to lead to a point. I have a cat that had kittens, and so now I'm stuck with 7 or 9 cats. And these cats were happy and well cared for, well fed, and in good health until another stray cat, a stray kitten from unknown location, appeared. And this cat appeared to be injured. I figured, well, it's been injured in the face. It's got some fur missing around its eye. And that explains why there is a discharge of gooey, disgusting liquid dripping from the corners of this cat's eye. In time, the injury will heal. It's minor, no problem. Now I believe that the kitten, the stray that recently showed up, not only had an injury to its face, but it also had an illness. And this illness, something like the common cold that infects humans, spread to my cats, and they all produced congestion in the nose and throat and lungs, discharge from the eyes. They were snorting and sniffling and wheezing. And one cat in particular is really sick with this illness. And it's iffy that this cat will survive because it doesn't eat. And going on, well, these cats have been sick for about 2 or 3 weeks. And the one cat who's severely ill with this sickness hasn't eaten in several days and is getting very thin. So it's iffy. It seems the others are able to shrug off this illness, but one, for reasons unknown, is hit hard by this illness, and it may take its life. These are strays, and I'm not going to invest any time and money in seeking a medical cure for this illness, whatever it may be. I should not have adopted the first cat, the stray cat. I should not have been merciful to that stray cat and fed it, because cats reproduce very well. And now you have a problem with a dozen cats that need food instead of one cat that needs food. All right, that's illustration number 1. Illustration number 2. Some problems, think about Sherlock Holmes or Perry Mason or a mystery thriller paperback book that people used to read before TV, where a detective, Columbo, on TV years ago. Every week he solved another case. There are TV shows where the detective solves the case every episode, and every time it looks like there is no solution, but he is very clever and very persistent, and he finds the answer. But there are some puzzles that are too complex for even Sherlock Holmes to discover a solution for. there are some problems. There could be a system with components, multiple components, which interact seemingly at random, a chaotic system. And you may understand some of the components of this system, but not understand every variable that affects these components. And when these components interact, you don't know what this system is going to produce. Think of the weatherman predicting the weather. Well, he's got that nailed down to such an extent that he's only wrong about half the time. So he's worth listening to because half the time he's right. If he says it's going to rain next weekend, you can suspect that it just might rain. It may not. But the Earth's climate is far more complex, composed of components which we're not even aware of at this point. Some of these components we're aware of and we understand well. But there are multiple components interacting in ways with unknown components, making the outcome very difficult to predict, almost impossible. If you got a bunch of experts together and funded them and told them, come up with the answer, solve this problem, get Sherlock Holmes, get Columbo, get a room full of scientists with their specialties, get somebody who can coordinate them and manage them and direct their activities, and I'm going to give you $10 billion of taxpayer money to fund your investigation. And I'll give you 20 years instead of just 20 days. I'll give you 20 years to find out. I want to know. Here is the question I want to know. In the next 100 years, will the ice caps grow or will they shrink? The ice caps on the North Pole. I got to know. I got to know. It's so important. I got to know. I'll spend $20 billion. I'll give you 20 years for all you experts to investigate this and tell me. I've got to know with a degree of certainty. I don't want a 50-50 answer, but if I have to settle for that, I guess I'll have to take a 50-50 answer. All right, remember the sick cat that made everybody, all the other kittens sick? Well, if I had an enemy and I wanted to introduce a plague in order to torment my enemy or immobilize my enemy, I could introduce a psychological plague, which could be a puzzle for which there is no answer, and convince them that they cannot burn any fossil fuels, cannot drill for oil, cannot use their automobiles, cannot generate electricity. They must shut down all their factories until they solve this puzzle. Basically, the puzzle is, will the ice caps grow or melt over the next century is the puzzle. And that is the puzzle for which there's no answer. And so, pardon my French, I'm about to insult you, and I apologize in advance. But when you introduce a psychological disease into the minds of your enemies in order to disable them, it is an attempt to fuck up your enemies. And if your enemies were smart, if these people who have been sent on a fool's errand, trying to predict whether the ice caps will grow or shrink in the next 100 years, if they were smart, they would realize, you know what, this is a puzzle that there's just no answer to. I guess we'll just never know. We'll have to wait and see. And until then, we're going to continue to generate electricity, and we're going to continue to operate our factories. We're going to continue with the American lifestyle, because this is a puzzle for which there is no immediate answer, and this is no reason to make extreme decisions regarding energy policy. So I believe the global warming hoax is introduced in order to, quote, French, pardon me, fuck us up with an illness to immobilize us, to distract us, to shut us down so that the enemy could be Red China. It could be a bunch of Arabs. It could be the Russian mafia. It could be international socialism or a combination of any of these people. Any of the America haters, some of whom are pretty clever, and they've been at the work of sabotage and psychological warfare for a while, and maybe they've gotten pretty good at it, and they realize that that is our weakness. America is very susceptible to subversion. You can't hardly conquer us with weapons, but because we're an open society, we have no immune system to this infection. Introduce it, and it could possibly fuck us up big time until we realize, you know what, this is just not anything that we can determine. We don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, and so we'll just have to wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see.